Welcome to Avant Garden, where we take a look at some experimental and oddball music releases from the past month. Let's start this March episode off with Encircle by Rattle. Get absolutely encircled.
You fools.
Very tight, almost minimalistic drum circle record with gorgeous vocals, nicely recorded drums that sound like they're right there with you, just hitting the beats. This album is like clicking the spiritual drumming section of Erowid. Ritual. And that's exactly what we get. Two singers, two drummers,
I see.
like
In
a
other words, the
figure
guys
eight,
kind of compete with one another. And,
following,
more
following
chase
each other
around.
around, you know?
It's like the serpent that
boom,
eats its
boom,
own tail, and it goes round and round like that. And a few
like Gene Krupa. Up next, we have Feeble Little Horse's cool single with an absolute just little guy. Just look at the little guy. Don't you love him? I love him. This is real. Really dynamic noise pop, bouncing between extremes of hectic and serene. 2025 needs an anthem about reality's collapse in the wake of the dead internet, and here it is. We found that in This Is Real. Death Meaning Consolation Prize right here. Great. Up next, we have Morning Commute by WorkFromHome. This is like if Davis Clark threw a warehouse rave. A bunch of frankly creepy exaltations of the glory of office life over some sick beats. It does a good job of bringing you into its world and worming its way into your brain. I want to wear neckwear. Rent free. The samples are often simply clipped over the beats, but they are also at times pitched, chopped, and screwed as well. I'm not that fond of 50/50, which feels a little bit drawn out, with my least favorite sample also being the longest track, customer service phone call argument. In contrast, my favorite song on the record is Influenza. Influenza. Love that title. Etymology blesses artists with so many opportunities. This song makes my skin crawl. In a good way. God is the algorithm. God is so many affiliate links. The algorithm. Oh shit. Oh my god, I almost just broke my TV. The algorithm. So many affiliate links. I'm honestly quite sympathetic with the idea that art is intimately tied to the divine. But this song renders the differences between art and content pretty starkly. It's about selling weight loss products, that's art. It makes a lot of things about the creator economy just, sound like they are, follower, influence, influencer, influenza, influenza. Influenza by GFOTY is back with another irony-laden hyperpop atrocity. Oh wait, I should take this suit off. No, I'm keeping it on. Sorry, babe. The suit stays on. It sounds very conventional to my ear most of the time, and then little bizarre cracks appear where the words reach a strange satirical excess. On Gap Year, where she's basically everything at a party. She's everything. What's your fantasy? What is your consumer fantasy for this woman? How can she be the product that you want? She is the dog. She is the cat. She is the pets that live there. She is
The phallic woman.
On that note, I'm taking off my tie. And it almost sounds sincere every step of the way. Sex, sex, sex.
And he shits into my crown.
Spin Song is pretty great. She just demands that you have a good time. You are having a good time, whether you like it or not. You must party, bruh. Oh, God, it's like a regular show episode. There's also a lot of hyperness in this, where the synths get so heavy and it just loops around to not being poppy again. My favorite track has got to be Get Ready With Me. Ew. This aggressive talk singing where she tells a story about going on a date, and get this, he looks her dead in the eyes and says, "Do you enjoy sushi?" Do I enjoy sushi? Like, what a fucking question is that? Like, everyone enjoys fucking sushi. Like, what does that mean? I just feel like you're like trying to like go down on me and like lick me out or something. It's just a creepy question to ask on a date. You fucking fuck. City of Clowns by Marie Davidson is an album just full of club bangers, sultry vocals musing about power, sex, identity, and identifying with the sexualization of power or the power of sexualizing identity. There's a lot going on. Inspired by The Age of Surveillance Capital by Shoshana Zuboff, Davidson breaks out the Soma at the Panopticon rave. Nostalgic, pulsing 2K's productions permeates this record as it claims possession of your ass. Oh, your ass is on the floor. Lots of dirty double entendres like the backstage access. That's my new favorite term for it. It reminds me a lot of the work of visual artist Anna Udenberg, the way the very infrastructure of society normalizes and sexualizes a kind of exhibitionism with an aesthetic feature that's like futuristic and modern, being simultaneously faceless and overexposed in a huge power imbalance, corralled into specific behaviors because there's only so many options here. Do you fit the qualified list? Many of Udenberg's works are probably too salacious for YouTube, including her most famous, where a stewardess lays in these like alien stirrups upside down with her face buried and her hips at eye level to a standing person. It's called Continental Breakfast because do you enjoy sushi or do you prefer the backstage access?
My heart, right on the selfie stick.
Heart on stick, mustache!
Klept came out with a good record, Squealing Hog, a fun, genre-hopping noise rock record. The vocals run the gamut from screeches, spoken, growled, auto-tuned southern drawl. A lot of the wackier moments are on Big Green Tractor, so I don't mean to pigeonhole them as some kind of gimmick band. It is just a really, really quality record. It's hard-hitting, cathartic, heavy, most often alternates between cinematic spoken segments and, squealing hog.
I grew up castrating hogs, so when I get to Washington, I'll know how to cut pork.
Testicles.
Very angry, very political, taking aim at trust fund babies, chuds, the folks that just get my dander up, quite frankly. Moving on, we gobble the mangled grapefruit with the Great Learning Orchestra's new album, Selected Recordings from Grapefruit. I think listening to this album without the relevant excerpts would leave a lot to be desired, so I'm putting them all here in track listing order. Refer back as needed. As far as I could tell, these are not listed in track listing order anywhere. Maybe in the record itself if you buy it, but the book is pretty easy to find in ways that are that I do not endorse. The ideas are what's interesting for the most part. It is cool if they made an album like this and performed it one way, but the definitive version, right, the text, the platonic truth is the written versions, the written instructions, because here every iteration would be different. And that's the point. You bring something to it, you perform it, and you do it. Anyway, Fluxus artist Yoko Ono wrote a book in the 60s called Grapefruit. Her book is mostly sheet music or event scores, I guess, for performance art. Very nebulous ideas that you may or may not act out in real life or in your mind. that are or are not possible to do. Since you, the reader, are supposed to interact with the text, the Great Learning Orchestra has taken this to its logical escalation, which is making a full album, enacting some of the more practical songs as a very relaxing ambient record field recording accompaniment to the book. It's like music for your mind. Whoa. Weed 420. Amor de Encava by Weed 420 is a very textured, spacey, psychedelic, deconstructed club album by a group of Venezuelan producers. Bits of cumbia, reggaeton, twist, and warp around you.
Like that.
Tonky by Lonnie Holley was a much anticipated release for me personally. Holley is a visual artist, so I'm just gonna, boom, just, throw his stuff up here so that you can get an idea, because you should know Lonnie Holley's visual work. It's fantastic. All right, so much like his visual work, his music is often about processing trauma, and it is strikingly powerful and hopeful in spite of the horrors of the world and the horrors that he's faced personally. He recounts the haunting systemic abuse levied against him in his childhood, being forced to do slave labor in America, where slavery is still legal and operational. Kidnapped by the government for breaking curfew, he was sent to Mount Meg's School for Negro Children. As an adult, processing the tragically early passing of his two young nieces, he made tombstones, which were also sculptures. And he began to realize that making art is a great way to deal with the pain of life. I think there can be a sensationalizing of the pain of certain artists who have had great hardship. But the thing is, a lot of artists have an experience of having a pain and then, learning to process it through art. And so it's very, that's part of art. And if somebody's able to do that exceptionally well, then that person is an exceptional artist. Also, just aesthetically, it's great work. You may have noticed that his work is all trash, but make it aesthetic. Garbo. Well, that's one of the points. He felt thrown away by the world, but he knew that he had value. So he repeats that process in miniature, crafting the thrown away bits, the refuse of the world, into something that it's hard to deny the value of. I'm sure a lot of people would still deny the value of it, but that's something very personal to him. So, I'm not saying you have to like it. I personally love it. Not everybody's going to love it, but, more recently, Holley started making music, which garners a significant amount of interest and always a star-studded list of features on every album. Tonky, his newest, is deeply moving. It harkens to recurrent systemic abuses, lingering effects of abuse, but also the hopes of a more peaceful and loving future. Protest with love. He touches on concepts of, unity, pacifism, the dangers of justified anger, and kind of comedically people not getting his art. I don't know why, but I find the phrase, we don't have a reason to play that in our home. To me, it doesn't sound that weird of a record, but it kind of makes me aware that a lot of people would actually be like, well, what is this? It makes me compare this record in my head to like Maroon 5. Yeah, maybe a lot of people wouldn't play this in their homes. Up next, we have Piss and Shit by Piss and Shit. I don't usually do this, but I'm just going to play it in full. incredible. It's a little early to call it, but this might be track of the year. It's gunning for it. Lastly, we have Clipping's new record, Dead Channel Sky. It is a very ambitious and fruitful project that makes even seemingly trite comparisons like, oh, social media is an addiction, hit in a satisfying way. Manhunts, hedonism, nihilism, addiction, gamification, gooning. Very thin and high, but still somehow heavy beats. There's these fantastical instrumental interludes that would be enough for a full project on its own if it was just like an EP or something. But of course, we have many of these beats being elevated by David Diggs coming in and just bringing it up, just turning that up a notch. Run, go. This is a fast record. It's coming at you. A lot of the charm is in the world they paint, so let's look at the lyrics and go through this track by track, skipping a couple whenever I damn well please. Dominator? Consciousness is a memory stick, and that means you can plug it in and feel what they believe. This album focuses a lot on what if transhumanism goes as planned. Keep in mind that the people planning it are like this guy, which is plenty horrific, but any cybernetic consciousness is vulnerable to hackers who could remotely torture you. Or, best case scenario, you are only at the whims of a dictator instead of both hackers and dictators. All that is a little tangential. The hackers are actually the good guys in this story, but had to get that out there. Moving on, we have some very dehumanized language. Bodies being harvested, collected for labor, or something along those lines. A character tries to spit at his oppressors, but his biological functions are controlled because he is still connected to the system. Did you pull the cable out? My favorite track is probably Run It, at least musically. Right from the get-go, it gets me so hyped. Get the work, 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 and put it in the pot. The music video is really cool where it zooms in on all these landmarks and surveillance mechanisms. And they are landmarks that are in the world, right? They are infrastructure, as is the surveillance. The infrastructure itself is controlling you. I've heard people got sick and vomited from Man with a Movie Camera, and I would love to show them Run It. They would die. They would be dead. They would cease to exist. It almost makes me sick, and I got the brain rot real bad. Look at this editing. Don't it feel like God to you?
God has so many affiliate links.
The algorithm. I think there is probably a lot going on that goes over my head because I don't know that much about cyberpunk. I know William Gibson is referenced a lot on this record. And because it's operating on so many levels, right? Words like run and go, encapsulating the fast-paced reality that they're living in, and the speed of Diggs rapping, and everything complementing the vibe so much. Run It, having this connotation of high speed, but you run drugs like a drug runner, and addiction. You run a cable, and you run a command and an OS, DOA. Say where you been. Nah, better be okay. Nuts, comma, D's.
Testicles.
And that little effect where he says, miter saw. Playing with the tactile sounds in this is one of the things that really makes it shine. I think Dodger is the most effective at bringing you into this cyberpunk vision with its characters' moments of conscience and this firing squad hunt for anybody who wants human freedom and doesn't want that to be increasingly corralled into the hands of technocrats. I think maybe these white hat hackers disrupt a bunch of brain implants with some kind of EMP or something like that, and people are going through withdrawals. But they're inspired by the vision of human passion, by these dodgers, the act of freedom, of running away and dodging the system. You know, they're seeing a real human act. the things that they play in their games, but for real. In their games, they liberate the kingdom from turtles with spikes on them. Scams is like a big exhale. With the relentless speed of this record on everything else, or the tinnitus interludes, instead you just get this and to just chill for a minute. It feels like a breather. Them bitches Munchausen. They want to be sick. They crave the addictions because it is easier than the emotional maturity of the real world, the unmediated reality. Nothing worth doing is easy, that is true. Connects thematically with a lot of lines on City of Clowns or other releases this month. Every roundup, there are a lot of thematic similarities because everyone is reacting to the same world. And a lot of the albums just always fit together. Skinners are slippery, if unintelligent, better go get it. We prefer to be called Dodgers. Skinners is outdated. Polaroids get straight up cold and chilling. A forecasted fascist future that is also kinda here. With historical preservation on the chopping block, technologies designed to obscure truth being rolled out by the day, and educational institutions being defunded and co-opted. It's political at this point, or at any point, to just acknowledge history. Memories are gobos, which is apparently these things. Memories are gobos making shadows on the locked present that has been fixed. Oceania has always been at war with Eurasia. That's an interesting escalation. It's not enough to simply cause distrust of photos' accuracy by flooding it with imposters or to ban photos, but thinking about the past in general is just not accepted. That's too much power. You don't want your serfs predicting future behavior with past behavior or caring about preserving anything. Those who are allegiant only to the senses are the easiest to corral. What's dialectics? Don't worry, kitten. Seizing your gifts is the key to business. Capitalists only want one thing, and it's fucking disgusting. Mirror Shades is so goofy, but lyrically is my favorite on the album. You aren't sexy if you don't wear your mirror shades. Wait, you aren't sexy if you don't wear your mirror shades. That line alone. Okay, first off, as ads tend to do, it's like, hey, don't you want to be sexually desirable? Use our products. Thanks, Bernays. It is just a statement, but you can't unhear how much this clubber internalized the advertising. He talks like an advertisement. The phrase is so blatant that's supposed to be hidden, but at this accelerated point, there is no hiding it. That everything is in the open. On to just the shades themselves. The soul is in the eyes, right? The eyes are the mirror to the soul, but the soul isn't sexy. The whole is sexy. What's sexy now is strengthening the ego. They just want you to reflect them back to them. Just collecting the data on you and showing you that data. Isn't that nice? There is an ideology of narcissism in the tech promises that everything ought to be infinitely personalized. Why would that be good unless you resent the existence of others and their preferences and perspectives? All that is perfectly encapsulated by this idea of mirror shades. Outsourcing your identity to infrastructure controlled by literal evil. Getting a bit heated. But it's a good album. Welcome home, warrior. Everyone is proud of you. Kind of cool track. Tether your self-worth to this product and what could go wrong. I was shocked that Tobacco wasn't anywhere near this track. It sounds so much like his stuff. Black Moth Super Rainbow did drop a single this month, by the way. Anyway, Ask What Happens closes it out nicely. Very good closer. Feels like a closer. Great track. Great album. Very immersive. Another recent music-related release this month was my Shaggs video. I worked on it very hard, tried to illuminate some lesser known stuff, and do right by a band that is unjustly called the worst of all time. They're not. They're great. So, what did you think of this music? What have you been listening to? Let me know in the comments. And if these releases were cartoons, what would they be? I think Dead Channel Sky would be Matrix Carrot Timmy.
Mirror shades on, still can't get a look. Tell your boy what's good. Play beer pong here.
Jerry, get a job.
Everything I talked about in this video and some sources in that Shaggs video, all below. Backstage, Metal Nuts D's
testicles.
Check the Shaggs video out. I worked pretty hard on it.
Showing up to the hardcore show with their bongos.